blended family. We hope you're having an awesome Monday. Today, we are talking about parenting styles, parenting differences. This is actually going to be a part one. There was so much good stuff that we had to split this up into two parts. So this is part one of parenting differences. And today we're talking about parenting styles. Do you know what type of parenting style you have? There's power when we know that. So we're going to dive more into that momentarily. So stay tuned.
So yeah, this reminds me of this one moment in our blended family where I had decided that I was going to let my youngest miss school. She was probably around 8 at the time, and I had been bribing her with going to school every day if she went without a problem, that I would let her skip school for the day, miss school. And it was working really well to get her to go, but it came down to this moment now where she was actually going to get to miss school, and I was having to tell Randall what my game plan was because we weren't going to go to school the next day. And when, I'll say this, I was a little nervous telling him because he had dropped hints just in our marriage. At this point, we'd probably been married a few years. He had dropped hints that he didn't agree with my mindset on school and how I would bribe the children with certain things. So I knew he wasn't going to be like 100% on board. And so I'd put it off as long as possible. And it came to this moment now where I finally had to tell him what was going to happen, and it wasn't very well received. So he did not agree with me in this. I found it to work very well in my parenting, but he did not think allowing kids to miss school was a good thing to do in your parenting.
Yeah, so she approached me with this and had said, yeah, I've been using this as a tactic to get her to go to school because she was very difficult to get up in the mornings and get motivated to even go to school. And so this being that bribe, and it finally came down to, so me and her were going to go do this or that. I forget exactly what y'all were going to do that day, but you being a teacher too, you were the school teacher, so you're missing work, she's missing school, and y'all were going to go have a fun day together.
Have a fun day, I mean.
And this was kind of how it was approached to me, like, hey, me and Riley Rain, we're going to go do this. And I'm like blown away. I'm like dumbfounded, like, are you serious? You can't do that. Like, you got to go to work, and she's supposed to be in school. And just my upbringing was, you don't miss school. You go to school, like, wind, snow, rain, everything.
Are you a mailman?
I went to school with my snowshoes on, and but you go to school, you don't miss just on a whim. And that was me, and that's more of my mindset as well, just how I think. And when she approached this to me saying, we're going to do this, I'm like, oh, really?
I mean, he gave me this whole speech about that's not real world, that you're teaching them wrong. If you were to have a job, that you would not be allowed to do this, and it's just teaching them the wrong work ethic, this whole thing. And I'm like, no, there's so many jobs that you have paid time off or that you could take off. So I had this whole rebuttal with him, and he just wasn't getting it. And it was kind of like sucking my joy from my vibe that I was trying to do. But again, I knew that he was against it because I think he had probably heard me bribe her a few times in the morning, and he had heard me and he'd voiced little things here and there. So I knew he was against it, but yet I still chose to move forward and do it anyways, to the point where I was trying to conceal it from him. But it came down to the moment where I had to finally say something because he was going to notice the fact that, I didn't go to work and she didn't go to school. So,
and we really did. We didn't see eye to eye on this, and it caused some static. We weren't yelling or fighting, but you could see it. You could see that her and I did not agree, and we didn't want to talk to each other anymore. It was kind of like, you go to your side, I go to my side,
yeah,
and
you do your
that's
thing.
that's kind of how we started acting. And that kind of carried on in our marriage for quite some time, as far as she would do things like that, to where now she felt she had to conceal it from me because I disagreed with it, and we never talked through any of it and try to reach a resolution. But what it also did was, now my biological daughter, Riley, was looking at her taking Riley Rain. We have two Rileys. If you
in
hadn't
case
caught
it's
that.
your very first podcast to listen to, he has a Riley and I have a Riley. So when we came together, we try to call them by their middle names and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that was a big thing too. It was. We won't get into that now.
Do a whole episode.
But now my Riley, she would sit there and watch them and be like, "Why can't I take off of school? I want to take off of school." And I'm like, "No, you won't. You have to go to school. School. They shouldn't be doing that." And now I'm attacking them as well. And so it just really led to a lot of division in our parenting. It led to division in our family. And it was all on parenting styles. So that's crazy whenever we think about this. And we didn't learn this till later on, but actually our parenting styles were pushing us further apart because we didn't recognize, we didn't even know what that meant. All we knew was we had differences. I didn't like her, she didn't like mine. And so we just went to our opposite corners and tried to navigate a family that way, which led to, like we said, a lot of problems until we realized how to come together with that. But so parenting styles, what is your parenting style?
Yeah,
if we
do
really
you even
talk
know?
about it.
Like, have you thought about this before? Or is this new information to you?
And maybe you may know, you might have heard of this and you're like, yeah, well, I'm this or that. But, all the psychologists and stuff, they've labeled different parenting styles. Now, one of the most common used, we'll go over the 4 parenting style method, because that's probably one of the most commonly used ones that have been used. Like, there's other models out there. There's like a 5 parenting style model that's, I think, newer, that may not be as well received yet. But, depending on what you're looking at, it really boils down to these 4 things. So this one, if we're using the 4 parenting style, I'm going to read these and see which one
try to
you
find
might
yourself
fall in. So, all right, the first one we have is permissive. So what this means is it's child-driven, rarely gives or enforces rules, overindulges child to avoid conflict. So that's permissive. That's a permissive parenting style. The second one is authoritative. So this one's the one who solves problems together with the child, the person who sets clear rules and clear expectations, opens communication, and allows for natural consequences.
That sounds like a lovely parenting style.
So that's the authoritative, right? So the number 3 is neglectful. This is the uninvolved parent, or the absent parent, the one who's not there, provides little nurturance, little guidance, is indifferent to the child's social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So this parent is neglectful, kind of just unplugged from parenting. Then the last one, number 4, is authoritarian. So we had authoritative, this one's authoritarian. Now, authoritarian is parent-driven, sets strict rules and punishments, basically has a one-way communication with little consideration of the child's social or emotional or behavioral needs. So it's kind of my way or the highway mentality. So really, if we look at it this way, like the permissive one is the one who's just the pushover, right? Just,
hey,
let the child do what the child does, and I'm just going to cheer you on. And then the authoritative is the one who is more like, come on, child, we're going to do this together. We're going to figure life out together. And then the neglectful one's like, I have a child?
Yeah.
Do I have a child? I'm a parent? When did that happen?
You're hungry? Go get yourself some food.
Go get yourself some food. Like, there's baby food in there.
Why don't you have a job? You're 10.
You should be mowing lawns or something. God, contribute.
Move on.
Then you got the authoritarian, which is the one like, hey, the drill sergeant, you will do this. Sir, you will do this and jump. When I say jump, you'll say how high.
You know
and it's kind of it's kind of like that. So now the funny thing is, we laugh at these, but these are like the extreme sides.
Yeah.
Right. Most of us are, we might be a little heavy on one of them, and we kind of lean a little in the other two, right? So we're kind of a mixture of a few of these, but most of the time we're kind of heavy in one of these areas.
Or depending on like the topic or like your background in that area, you may lean more on one way than the other.
Yeah, for sure. So you'll find yourself, so when you're trying to pinpoint, okay, well, what kind of parenting style do I have? And me, for me, I'm more of that. Well, it's funny because how I would have answered it, when we talked about this, how I would have answered this back 15 years ago, I will answer it totally different now. And that's crazy because our parenting styles aren't just set in stone. Our parenting styles are evolving. As we learn, as we grow together, as our blended family, as we grow together, we start shifting and merging. And the more wisdom and knowledge we gain, we start just growing. That's humanity. That's human nature.
Yeah.
So what if I were to answer this back then when we had gotten married, probably the first 5 years into our marriage?
What if I was the answer for you back then?
If you were to answer for me,
what would I say?
Well, I was definitely authoritarian.
Yes.
So, and that's what I would have said back then. Whenever our kids were younger, I had more of that authoritarian, like my way or the highway. This is the right way, and your way's the wrong way. And I had that. I lean more towards that, but then I would have a little bit more of the authoritative mindset as well.
They shouldn't have made those words so close together.
I know they are really close. So authoritative and authoritarian, like that's how the authoritarian is. I don't know, like the dictator, I guess. But what would you have been?
Well, same as you as far as like it's changed. It's definitely changed over the years on how I would handle things. I would say that I was probably more permissive. Would you agree?
Yeah.
In the way that I did things. And then there's some areas now that I would say I'm a lot more permissive just because our kids are older and I don't have as much say in those areas, so I can be a little bit more laid back. But I feel like I'm always like trying to get the authoritative. Like that's what I'm working towards. That's what in my like perfect mom world, that's what I want to be. Like that's who I strive for. And I think I've gotten closer to that. But there are definitely times like I can go from permissive to authoritarian, like in, what is the saying, like 0 to 60?
0 to 60, yeah.
Like, because I can be so permissive, and especially when the kids were younger, I would be so permissive that I would keep letting them like run all over me. And then I just kept thinking, okay, if I do this, if I say this, if I get them to, do what I ask by giving them what they want, then they're going to follow my directions. And if they didn't, then I would just flip the script on them and then become very direct and like very harsh in those areas. Would you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And, and I think that was one of our biggest hurdles was I would witness the kids running all over you and you allowing it. And that was just the way that you did, that was your parenting style. But then too, you felt you had to hide the authoritarian side. Whenever you did flip the script, you did it in private because you didn't want me to see
I would
that.
always wait till he was around because I felt like a crazy woman when I would do that. And I didn't want him to think that I was crazy and that he made a wrong choice in marrying me. And like, so I was like, if I was like being very permissive with them, say getting them ready for school in the morning or something, then we would finally get to the car to drive to school because my kids went to the same school that I was teaching at. And so we'd all load up in the car together and he would take his Riley to school and I would take my kids to school and I would just unleash on them like, how dare y'all act like that in front, and embarrass me like that. And I would like throw out the harshest of punishments that you could. I would just be so mad. And then we'd walk into school like, oh, hey.
It reminds me of like the church family, right? We've all, I think, fallen guilty of that. Mm-hmm. Like we're all smiles and glory, praising God, and then we leave. Get in the car! I can't. No, you buckle your seatbelt.
Oh yes, or like you're fighting, trying to get them dressed and out the door to walk into church, and you've just like been yelling at them, and then you walk in the door, put your smile on. Hey guys. Yeah, hopefully we're not the only family that struggles with that, but I did find myself a lot like I would wait till him and Riley would leave, and then every once in a while his Riley, our older Riley, she would witness it because I couldn't, like summertime when I had all the kids with me or something, and I couldn't hold it all in, and I think that probably put a wedge in a lot of the areas with her and I as well, because she would see two different sides of me.
Hey, we'll be back momentarily. Check out this announcement.
Are you tired of focusing only on the negative in your blended family and just want to be able to enjoy it? Randall and Scarlett here, and that's where I found myself years ago, and we began to search and seek out solutions for our family so that we could experience that enjoyment that we hope so much we envisioned when we married each other. So after years of searching and looking for things and becoming very intentional on helping our blended family, we found 5 steps that we began to follow to help our blended family. And we put those things together in this Mom's Quick Guide to Blending Her Stepfamily. These are going to be 5 steps to blending success.
Yeah, and we realize that once we start doing things, once we start getting intentional and quit just complaining about it, but actually doing things to help us get those results we wanted, that's when we really start seeing a change. And there's power in that when you do that. That's why this guide is so powerful, that we walk you through exactly what we've learned. This took us over almost 15 years to learn, to get down to where now we're seeing the success from, we're seeing it, and we want you to have this guide so that you can get there so much quicker. Right now, you can have that guide. This is about a $97 thing, but right now we're giving it to you for $7. That's it. No catch. We also want to sweeten the deal a little bit, so we're throwing in 5 additional bonuses, resources that can just add to this. Our heart is we really want you to have these tools and tips and tricks to really see success in your family. Not saying that is bad right now, but man, whenever you start doing these things, there becomes so much power in your family, and you see so many more blessings from it. So get your copy today, only $7 right now. This is about a $374 value, $7 right now. So get it today while we still have this offer going. The link will be below in the show notes. Now back to this episode. Back, whenever our kids were young, you had more of that permissive style, and I think that's where we saw the conflict, because I was more of the authoritarian, and I would sit there and call out what I believed to be wrong, not necessarily saying that it is wrong now, reflecting back, but what I thought was wrong in my mind, and I would approach that with the way I parented our kids. And one of the complications really from that was with Riley, Rain, and Devin having ADHD the way that they did. They couldn't keep focus, like cleaning the room and just, some simple tasks and things like that people with ADHD struggle with. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't grab that, not with my parenting style. That just drove me nuts. I'm like, it takes you 6 hours to clean your room? No, that's uncalled for. I could have this done in 10 minutes. Get in there and clean your, and it was just that.
And if I ever felt the pressure of, and he didn't even have to say anything. Every once in a while, he might say a little snide remark to me that would make me feel that way. But I could just read it all over his body language. So if I ever felt like it was getting to the point where it was bothering him, then that would really stir up this I should do something. And so I would try to do something, but they weren't used to that. And so it would really throw them off. And then that's when I would have to really get stern with them, and it didn't work well because again, they weren't used to that. But I would try to do things differently because I didn't want to upset you, or I didn't want you to get to that point of being mad or frustrated and have to step in. So
yeah, so there was a lot with our different parenting styles, and kind of why we bring this up is we're hoping that you relate in a sense. Some of these things that we're sharing that we struggled with, all blended families have these struggles, especially in your marriage and when you're trying to parent your kids, you're parenting your bonus kids, you're trying to figure it all out. These are some of the common things that we have, and knowing our parenting styles is a big game changer. Kind of once we know that, now we're able to see strengths and weaknesses and start working together, which that we'll talk more on that in part 2. But this is the power behind it, because if you don't take parenting differences, our parenting style, if we don't take that into consideration, all we're doing is bumping heads.
Yeah.
We're constantly thinking the other person's wrong. We're trying to do things behind the scenes. We're trying to keep things from each other. It builds more walls that really just creates that havoc. And what we were seeing, especially with our kids, is our kids are seeing this as well. So our kids are learning now, well, I can do this with mom. I can do this. I can do this, or I can't do this with my bonus dad, or vice versa. And they start seeing that, and then they start seeing the wishy-washy of maybe one's saying one thing and the other's saying something different. So there's no real structure in the home. So it creates a lot of confusion, especially as kids being raised up in this. Now they're already struggling with having two different homes most of the time. And depending on how often your kids are with you, maybe this is every other weekend or every other week, or maybe, depending on your different family dynamics, or maybe you have them more often than your co-parent does. So there's so many different dynamics to this that play a factor in it as well. So it's really powerful once you can start depicting what is my parenting style, what really am I doing, what do I think. So kind of as we had read those four, the permissive, authoritative, neglectful, authoritarian, really take that and this week, let that be it. Which one are you? Which one do you fall more of? Maybe you say, well, I'm more heavy on this side, and I've got a little bit of this one in me as well. So one...
And there may be one that you, like I was saying, that you want to be, but then what you actually are two different things. So sometimes it helps to ask someone else, maybe ask your spouse if y'all are at a place in your relationship where you can ask that and it not like stir up a fight or something, but just reading and say like, hey, which one do you think I am, and get that perspective, maybe even your kids if they're old enough. So
well, and that's a good thing to do together as well. And like you're saying, ask. Maybe this is something that you share this episode with them. Maybe you're listening together and sitting there going, okay, well, what am I? And you start picking it out, and then your spouse is doing the same. That way now you're seeing, what is my spouse's parenting style? What do they think it is? What do I think it is? And you're talking about it. And sometimes that can be a fun conversation that you're diving into, and just really, no, you're not that. And
if you're to that
point, yeah. If not, if it's going to stir up a fight, you definitely don't want to sit there and bring that up. But
we share with you, sorry to cut you off, but we share with you these our, like you could say, worst moments, but our truths behind it of, where we had fault, to let you know, like, it's okay, it's normal, it's natural. We're all learning. We weren't born parents. We're learning to parent as we are actually in the game of parenting. And it's okay to like take note of that, which is what we're saying do this week, and be like, well, is this who I want to be? Is this the type of parent that I want to be? And if it's not, like, okay, well, what can we do differently? How can we do something about that?
And it's more complicated in a blended family. Why we have to be a little more intentional in this area, because we have already established a parenting style before in our previous relationship. And so now you're carrying that over into this one. Same with your spouse. And that's where that conflict is. If you're bringing your kids into this to where now you can get more defensive about your kids, which can stir up a whole nother mess if we don't figure this thing out.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because if you were in your first marriage or in a nuclear family, like, which is still like the original mom and dad in there, you're going to have different parenting styles. Like, this isn't just something that's for blended families. That happens in those nuclear families. And now it's just magnified or doubled because now you have more people that you're trying to work around.
Yeah. So it's going to be powerful. Can't wait for part two. Part two is going to be, now how do we do this together, right? Yeah. This one's isolating it, figuring it out. What parenting style am I? what parenting style is my spouse, getting the two of you talking about it, identifying it, because once we identify it, now we can move forward and use it to our advantage. So there's power in doing that when we come together and talk. So what would you say your parenting style is now? Like, we talked about what our parenting styles were 15 years ago. What is your parenting style today, would you say?
Maybe I should ask you, but I would say authoritative. Like, at least that's what I strive for. Yeah. Again, I think I said earlier, like, there are some areas that I'm very permissive still, just because they are older, and there's nothing I can do. They're mature and they're adultish, and so they're making their own choices. So I have to step back and be permissive in that area. But I would like to say that I've gotten really good at asking questions, guiding questions, and letting them, like, growing them in that way. And then when I'm not, you come in and tell me. So
there's been many times, why did you do that? No, don't send that text message.
Just yesterday I sent a text. He's like, that sounded very demanding. And I was like, okay. So I sent a second text message. Randall said that sounded very demanding. So sorry, I was just excited. So what would you say I am?
Well, no, definitely authoritative. So you weigh more heavy on that side, to where it is more trying to work together and work through it. So I would definitely say that. Me, I believe I have definitely shifted, and I am more authoritative than authoritarian now. But that's taken a lot of work on my part of really being able to recognize that. And that's the power, I guess, that we're sharing is, you don't, just because you're one style doesn't mean you have to stay that way. You get to pick the strengths or the weaknesses and stuff like that. Like, I realized within myself, once I realized it, I realized how I could be really overbearing and pushing my family away, and I didn't want that. And so it takes work now on my part to change that and change kind of my thinking. And, definitely the Word of God has softened my heart on so many things. So it's taking all that and really just going towards where I want to be as a parent. But you have to recognize where you're at first. That way you even know where you want to go. So that's kind of the whole cool thing about this process. But yeah, I'd say more authoritative now. I think I definitely like bringing in the kids and trying to work through the problems and solutions without thinking my way is the only way. I've learned that there's always more than one way to get to a solution.
He actually says that quote. No, what is it? There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There's more than one way to skin.
Why are we skinning cats?
Cat.
But is that the
I
same?
don't even know why that's a saying. That's kind of a terrible saying. And we have cats. We love cats.
Yes. But you
terrible
quote
saying.
That kind of stuff.
Some of these quotes is like, where did they come from?
Yeah, like why?
Yeah, why? Who came up with that one? Like a cat skinner out there somewhere? I don't know. It's weird.
I know.
Why?
Maybe if it was
Why would you
deer,
do that?
But okay.
Yeah, but crazy. So this week, what parenting style are you? Try to figure that out if you haven't already. And maybe if you've talked about this before or thought about it before, rehash it, bring it back. Maybe you've changed. Like we've talked about, I will answer it so much differently now than we would back then. Same with 5 years ago, 2 years ago. We change and we evolve. Where are you now? And where's your spouse? So if that's a conversation you both can have together, man, powerful. Do that. Y'all talk about that and figure each other's out. Have some good laughs about it and kind of share those. That's an intimacy thing whenever you as a couple are coming and talking about those things that you wouldn't have talked about. You get to learn each other and know each other so much more when you do that. But where are you at now? Mark that one. And then part 2, we're going to sit there and we're going to go deeper at how we can actually come together on that. So good stuff.
All right. Yeah. Very good stuff.
Yeah. So y'all have a great week. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your blended family. And just go out and create some fun moments.
Amen.
So we love you guys. We will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Enjoying Your Blended Family. All the links we've talked about today, they're in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe below. It's free and it lets you know when we have another episode for you to listen to.
And if you want to help us out, leave us a rating and review so that we can keep reaching more people. Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment.